You're listening to HBCU Corner with the Urban Sports Scene. I'm Wole and I'm joined by my guy, Ray Jeezy. What's good, Ray?
Chilling, my guy. I'm in the building with you today. HBCU Corner. You know, this kind of my thing, bro. I like talking HBCUs. Matter of fact, I don't just like it. I love talking HBCUs, bro. That's my I guess my area of expertise. Some would say, but excited about this one. This is new. You know, we got a good rapport or good relationship with all the coaches in the MEAC, and now we got another one. So I'm excited about that.
It is dope. And also HBCU Corner is also part of Black Sports Insiders. You can check out our website, which is urbansportscene.com. Before we introduce our new guest, like Ray mentioned, let's knock out some logistics. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, tune in, iHeartRadio, and other podcast platforms. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. Make sure to subscribe to the Urban Sports Scene YouTube channel. If you're in the YouTube chat, we accept super chats. Super chats help us support the show. All super chats will be prioritized over all comments in the chat. Don't forget to tweet us at Urban Sports Scene. Hit us up on IG and TikTok at Urban Sports Scene, and like our Urban Sports Scene Facebook page. Also join our Urban Sports Scene Facebook group. Search Urban Sports Scene, sports bloggers, sports podcasters, and sports debates. Oh yes, it's my turn. You want Ray? You want to be my turn now? I try to give you something.
Oh, my bad. Right now, we have Coppin State women's basketball coach Darrell Mosley. What's up, coach? And welcome to HBCU Corner. I got my cue card late, but I got it though.
What's going on, fellas? What's going on? Appreciate
you. What's going on, coach?
I can blame you, Coach Mosley, because it took us a while just to get to this point. So
yes, sir.
I'm just delayed, but it's all good. Good to have you on. Like I said, we talk to a lot of coaches on the show. We love to meet our coaches and all of our HBCU coaches. So it's good to get a chance to interview you. And if you watch any of our past interviews, we start off with kind of an icebreaker or a fun question. And my question is this. I teased you a little bit before we came on. We have, he's a coach now. He's not even a player no more. He's a coach at Jackson State. And he used to play at Delaware State. Name is Sayers Guthrie. He said the best HBCU homecoming he had been to was Lincoln prior to going to Jackson State. You were a coach at Lincoln at one point. I just want to get your thoughts on that homecoming experience.
Unbelievable. He wasn't lying about that. And if you want to think about it, I actually committed to Lincoln myself because of homecoming. I was at Delaware State first as a player. And, I went from Division I to Division II. And the coach brought me up during homecoming. But just the unbelievable atmosphere, just the family feeling, just the chicken and fish out there on the yard and just the homecoming concert. And it was just an unbelievable atmosphere and experience. And I told the coach I was coming. So, and it's coming up, actually. I think it's the 25th. So I'm looking forward. I'm back now on the East Coast. And so now I can, get back to going to homecoming as well for myself.
That's wild. Like X went to Dell State too before he transferred. Yeah. That is crazy. That is hilarious. So coach, you're in B-more. B-more, you're talking about food. B-more got great food. Baltimore has great food. What are the spots you've been hitting up in Baltimore?
Man, I just had Moe's for the first time. Oh my God.
Moe's is like that.
And I kept hearing about it. Everybody is like, have you tried Moe's? Have you tried Moe's yet? I actually just did an interview last week and with rare footage out of Philadelphia. He said, have you tried Moe's? I said, I'm going to do it this weekend. So after practice on Saturday, my parents was in town. I said, hey, let's go check out, the spot called Moe's I keep hearing about. Man, a crab cake off the chain.
Yes.
Just the whole daggone menu was just phenomenal. When you go, get to some new places that you've never been, you're looking at the menu, you're looking at the appetizers, and you're like, man, I want to try a little bit of everything. So that's what we did. Kind of dibbled and dabbled on the entrees and the appetizers. Had a lot to take home and kind of nibbled on it for some appetizers and leftovers for the next couple of days. So Moe's is definitely a go-to spot that I'm going to keep on my list as well.
Yeah, first when a couple of my friends used to tell me about it, I was like, it can't be that good, Like I was like a little semi-hating, you know what it is. And then all of a sudden, I went there and checked it out. I was like, oh, okay, you're right.
It wasn't lying. On portion, it's pretty good as well.
Yes, portion is it's crazy.
We got tagged them on IG. They getting advertising right now.
Hey man, Moses like that, bro. I ain't gonna hold you. If they want to, they got it. They got it. But we're here to speak about your program. So first off, I mean, you're the new coach for Coppin State. First, what were your first priorities after being named head coach at Coppin, and how have you begun setting up the tone in the program?
Man, the first thing I had to do quickly is put a staff together. It was one returning player on last year's roster, and so it's hard for me to get out and answer all these calls and evaluate by myself. So I knew I had to identify a staff pretty quickly. People with some experience, people with some recruiting ties, and we had to go find a roster. It was late in the year, late hire. Transfer portal's already coming to a close. And so it's kind of like, man, we got to turn every stone and see who is still out there based off of, my caliber of player, especially dealing with transfers, dealing with the portal. Let's identify who can come in and be an impact right away. So that was my first task. Find a staff, and let's try to get this roster put together. We are one of 5 teams in the country that has 14 newcomers. That's a lot. And so, man, a lot of late nights just answering phone calls, evaluating and watching a lot of film. And we wanted to make the right decisions on who we added to the group this year. And, since this summer, we're looking much better, but a lot of teaching, a lot of just, cultivating a culture. But I'm teaching everything new to my staff, to my team, terminology, spacing, plays. And it can be tough when you don't have any returners. Normally your returners can get out there and kind of know the system, know the plays, know the foundation. I'm teaching every little thing. And so right now it's just teaching skill, teaching spacing, teaching confidence, and just kind of having that impact when we get on the floor just to show up with 110% every day and the rest to kind of take care of itself.
Well, you are taking over a program that was trending upward. Shout out to Coach Jermaine Woods. He did his thing while he was there. Of course, that firsthand experience. I'm not going to bring that up, though. You asked me not to bring up last season's game. But I will say this. Because of the coaching staff that you were part of at Arizona State, which had DMV ties, I would have thought that recruiting might have been a little bit easier for you. You had like Jaylen Brown, who's from B-More, Ty Skinner's from D.C. I'm thinking that maybe you had some contacts. Looking at your Instagram, a lot of the coaches already follow you. So was that process of just having that familiarity helpful, or was it just as difficult as you're describing now because you were kind of, putting together, like you said, a whole new roster, which is kind of the landscape because of the transfer portal and all?
Yeah, for sure. Now, we can speak on it a little bit. Like I'm not hiding from anything. Power 5, Power 4 ranks, it's a time in where everybody now is getting paid. And, you have collective, you have NIL. And we had some really good talent from the DMV that wasn't getting paid. And so when you have a point of I'm producing, I'm getting numbers, the situation what happened with us, we got hired out of Arizona State. The AD that hired us literally resigned 4 months after we took the job. And so we were sitting ducks out there. It was no support, no collective, nothing financial. And so as coaches, we're a little upset because we can't really take care of those kids that we're trying to recruit, or we can't really go out and recruit Power 4 kids because we don't got a bag behind us. And so when you got certain kids that's playing at a high level, they feel underappreciated. They feel like they're not valued because as a coaching staff, who do we have to go to get this revenue, these finances? And so it kind of kills your culture, kills your turmoil, your team, because what the heck am I here for? I'm grinding every day. I'm trying to, win, but I'm not getting paid when I know my colleagues, my friends, people I play AAU with is over here, getting a substantial amount of money. So that's kind of what we were dealing with at the time in Arizona State, just no resources, no support. And it was kind of like, descending as a program where it was just like, man, this ended up being just kind of a bad situation for us.
So, like, Coach, you talked about just jumping on in the recruiting scene. I know it was obviously a hectic situation, but were there any areas in terms of regionally were you tapping into? Were you tapping in more Baltimore based, DMV as a whole base, or Philly, whatever? What was like your base
for here now?
Here now, Coppin.
Right now, it's just especially with my transition, we got to find the best players available, but. Like looking forward to next year now that we have an established roster, we want to take care of home first. Been out to a couple local open gyms and connecting with those coaches. So we want to, keep home, but then we also want to go out and find the best players in the transfer portal, the best JUCO players that's available. I just like, the best of the best. I'm going to still continue to recruit Power 4 kids or really high mid-major kids, and they tell me no. And so at the end of the day, it's going to come down to relationships, being able to sell yourself as a coach, sell your program. And sometimes, a kid that's on that borderline, you can go power 4, and then you're sitting into your junior year where I can go make a name for myself as a freshman, as a sophomore. And now it's to a point of where it's a business where I went to this level, I produced, I got the numbers. Now I get my bag on the back end. But if you go there on the front end and they got 3-4 people in your position that you're not going to play and have those stats, then you're not really making a name for yourself, and you're going to end up dropping anyway. And so that's kind of what we've been selling, and we've been able to get some kids that was kind of on that borderline to say, all right, this coach believes in me, this staff believes in me. Let's go ahead and just invest in myself now, or, go to this level right away, continue to develop. You're going to be playing some of these P4 schools anyway. Yep. So you get a chance to show what you're made of in that non-conference aspect.
Coppin is such a great example because they hosted LSU, of course. That was kind of a Angel Reese homecoming, but it's still an opportunity for players to play against a team like that on that national stage. Schedule South Carolina, like you can still accomplish your goals and shine, even though you're not necessarily going to be playing every game against a Power 4 school, but still it's an opportunity to grow. And as Wole's going to ask you about one of the former players there, she did her thing and she's out there now. She's a pro. So I'm just saying Coppin State is still a good place to continue your collegiate career. That's all I'm trying to clarify for people out there.
Yeah, Woods did a phenomenal job with this group. And, you got some players that could have played at the higher level, and that's what you got to do at this level. You got to get still. Same at Norfolk. Larry Vickers had players that were Power 5 kids that came down and played, and those are the players that's producing and winning. And so you got to go out and find those type of kids if you want to be able to compete in this league. It's a lot of really good coaches, and everybody is now going after that mid-major Power 4 kid to come down and play in the MEAC because the proof is in the pudding. There's players that have showed it. They produce. Now they're either getting a WNBA training camp or making the team or creating a resume for them to go overseas. And so the opportunity is there. You want to go P4 and play 10 minutes a game, or go somewhere and play 35 minutes a game and produce and create a resume for yourself.
I always preach that. I'm like, I think kids should rather have the playing time and give them the opportunity to do some big things at the school, regardless of whatever. It's all about the opportunity more than just the name of the school, to be real with you. Because again, you're going to play those schools regardless. You're going to play those schools on the schedule because they want you on their schedule, right? So you're going to get that opportunity to showcase your talent. Ray mentioned it a little bit about it. Last year's star, Layla Lawrence, who was a dominant big for Coppin State last year. She's not on his team anymore, but that doesn't mean anything else, and that gives other players the opportunity to step up and be that person, right? Which players from your roster should folks like us or anybody who hasn't watched this team keep their eye on?
It's a setup.
Man, I think this is going to be a team where we can have it in bunches. It can be somebody different, each and every game. And like I said, I'm still learning my team. Like these are all brand new players. And so somebody steps up differently every day. And so it's hard to single out because it's still early. Yeah. I kind of have a clue who I want to step up, but some days it's the post players, kind of doing well and the guards may struggle, or the guards is doing really well and the posts, may struggle. And so we're still trying to, put even lineups together, chemistry together. It's still early to kind of really determine, but I think it's going to be a team that we collectively, defensively, we got to play and hold our opponents from scoring. We got to be able to get out in transition, and we got to find the hot hand. And so, like I said, we got our first live look this weekend in the scrimmage. We've been doing some inter squad or, against our scout guys. And like I said, it's somebody different. Like, wow, this person going back and watch this film, stepped up and hit a couple threes. Didn't have a lot of reps in practice this week, but then it's like somebody different every day. And so I think it's still early to kind of determine, but, I think we have, a couple people that can step up and get some double figure scoring for us.
I see you tapped into some old contacts for your schedule. So it looked like, getting that non-conference slate, it looked like maybe you had some hookups. That's what it seems like. Arizona State's on there, I see. And
that's a game me and Jermaine already had. You know,
that was already ready.
That was a home and home agreement. But that was typically like one of the only games. I had to come in and that one in South Carolina was already done. So I had to come in and find almost 14, 15 games. It was brutal.
Ooh, that's crazy. So is it gonna be a little extra incentive if you go in there and play them hard? You know, we UMES grads, Arizona State, you was part of that last year, got us by 6. We had 32 turnovers in that game, you know what I mean? But I know they got a whole new team, coaching staff, so it's gonna be fun. 2 new teams. It's probably gonna be a little sloppy early on. That's my guess, just because everybody's trying to gain cohesiveness. What you think?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we're a new team. You know, everybody has to. It's gonna be hard to scout us. You know, just like it's going to be hard to scout anybody in the country. Honestly, with this transfer portal now, those first couple of games on the season, like Arizona State's a whole new team. They now have resources, surprisingly. So, you know, it's a different dynamic of, you know, being able to go get LSU and Ole Miss transfers now. They're going to be a different team. So we have to be able to scout personnel and get prepared for them. But nobody's knowing how we're going to play. Either. So they got to go and look at all my transfers from the portal. I got some freshman kids that, they probably didn't do a lot of research on. So those first 2-3 games, you're not really getting an identity on the team until you can actually get on synergy and kind of see consistently how teams are playing, what their lineups are going to be doing. Coaches are going to be probably switching lineups first 2-3 games until they get a cohesive chemistry going. And so those first couple of scouts are always the toughest, but, I'm more so focused on us, making sure we can handle the ball, making sure we handle pressure, we can, execute in the half court, but most importantly, we're defending and stopping our opponent from scoring.
Let me ask you real quick as a follow-up. You got a team like Tennessee, ranked top 10. You go in there. What is the goal really when you kind of what's going to happen, but then again, you want to get your team ready for conference play and all? How do you prepare for a big game like that against a nationally ranked squad?
Compete. My message is compete. And I don't care what they're ranked. Exactly. They bleed just like we bleed. Compete. Don't go in here and lay down. There ain't no reason to be nervous. And just from my experience, I've done this in the past, even since I was the head coach at Lincoln and we were going to go play Maryland, we were going to play Syracuse. You want to give your team goals to try to accomplish. If we accomplish these goals, the end result can be what it's going to be. But if the goal is to not get out rebounded by 12, let's fight hard not to get out rebounded by 12. If the goal is to have less than 15 turnovers, then let's take care of the ball. So at the end of the game, the result is the result. I can then say, well, I'm proud of y'all, for we only had 13 turnovers this game. The goal was to keep it under 15. Well, they only out rebounded us by 6. And so then you kind of measure those two together. These are power 4 teams. Kind of, we'll be able to bang and be able to compete against teams in the conference. So that's a good way to measure it. But also, my biggest thing is just going in, approach the game with some heart, some toughness, some grit, and just compete. And then I can be proud of my team when I go back and look. Don't worry about the final score. That, man, y'all playing against All-Americans and future WNBA players, but you held your own. And it's a story for you to tell down the road. I played against this individual that went to the league, and I held her to 6 points. And so have a story to tell after the game because you showed up and you competed against some of the best in the country.
That's facts. I do want to ask some about without getting into like schematics or whatever, because I don't like your team is new, so I'm not without getting into schematics or style of play, but what would you say was going to be your team's identity? And it doesn't have to be like style of play or anything like that, but it could be a mentality. What would you say would be your team identity?
Grit, toughness, and I'm a defensive-minded coach. I'm going to approach every game, every practice, thinking defensively, how are we going to guard? How are we going to match up? I want to be able to press. I want to be able to speed teams up. Now, you still got to have the personnel to do it. And so right now we're playing with some things, how we should be able to play or how we can play based off personnel. But, everybody on the floor got to be able to sit down and guard. You got to be able to play with some toughness. You got to be physical. Offensively, we can kind of tweak some things around based on personnel. But long as, who wants to stop somebody? You want to play for me, you got to get on the floor and guard. Offense is going to come. We can create offense from our defense, getting out, getting steals, getting in the passing lane, getting out in transition. But if you're just a liability on defense, you're probably never going to play. I don't care if you can score 20 points, but if your player's giving you 30, you need to focus on defense. And so that's kind of been my mentality every day in practice. We're starting every day with intensity slides, intensity drills on defense before we even touch a ball. And so I think that mindset is starting to turn. Like, coach needs defense. He needs people to get stops. If I want to play, I got to be able to defend.
And also, what has been like some of the challenges, like running practice with like a bunch of like basically a new squad, like you're putting together this whole new squad.
For us, is really just healthy. Staying healthy. We have some coming in, just a little banged up. Right now you're recruiting some kids just from relationships. Well, I like this kid. This kid never even came on a visit, but she may be playing overseas. We get her to come. She shows up. Ankle sprain. This kid had an injury coming from high school. This kid had a nagging injury from before. And so we're getting them here just because we need bodies, and they're straight in the training room for PT. And so before we can see what it all looks like as a team, we got to get them healthy first. And so it's been hard to get everybody out there on the same page, because right now I'm gradually, letting people catch up, getting healthy before we just throw them out there, because we need them for November. So kind of just slow walking that situation, getting those, maybe these freshmen and some of the ones that, had some slow starts, getting them caught up, getting the execution down pat, getting the terminology down pat. And so just really trying to do a lot of individual work, skill work, and just kind of teach, and answer any questions that we need to have so we can catch them up that way. Also,
I do like something you said earlier about, like, when Ray asked you the question about when you play teams like Tennessee and whatnot, it seems like you have segmented goals, like they're segmented, like, so you have like one portion, you're like, I'm rebounding, like we get this rebounding, like it's gonna put us in a situation to be successful. Like, so with that thought process, like, do you have any short-term goals, right, for the season in terms of like at pieces by piece to say, all right, we do this, we'll be here at the end of the season, or we'll be where we think we should be at towards the end of the season? Do you have short-term goals?
What my short-term, I kind of just mentioned it with the roster. My goal is to try to get through the gauntlet of our season.
Got you.
Healthy. That's my biggest goal and emphasis right now. Being strategical as a coach, knowing if we need an extra day off, maybe just throwing them in the pool. Because right now, we're just, slimming numbers. And so if we can get through that gauntlet of the season healthy, where I can kind of muster them back up, confidence, mentally stronger, physically stronger, getting them in the training room, getting them back in the weight room, and all right, let's finish the season strong in conference. I think, enduring what we had to endure in a non-conference, playing against some of the best players in the country, having that film to go back and watch and us critique and, make, changes to certain things, then going into conference, they would have already seen it all. And so that's the biggest thing, is just getting them through the non-conference mentally strong and getting them through the conference physically healthy. And then, once conference time is up, we just got to put our hard hats on and our boots, and we got to get ready to go to war.
Coach, I'm being unbiased. I'm being honest. But I believe that the MEAC is one of the toughest mid-major conferences in the country. That's my real belief. It has nothing to do with the school I went to or whatever. How do you prepare your players, and how do you get them to see that conference play is going to be real? And I'm guessing you had some familiarity with Delaware State during your time at Delaware, so you kind of got an idea, but it's some tough teams in this conference. And how do you get them to that mindset, like it's going to be a dogfight every night once conference play starts?
I called my team out this summer. It's like, just the hard work and work ethic. Of course, we have non-conference games, but I told my team, best believe I'm looking ahead. I'm seeing what teams are putting out, just even from a conditioning standpoint. You got people hitting the bleachers, they're outside and getting up early in the morning. We have no room to bellyache. We have no room to complain when this is what we have to go up against. And so coaches are doing a phenomenal job recruiting, getting portal transfers, getting JUCO transfers, and they're putting great game plans together as well. And so this is what we have to go up against. You might end up still playing against a P4 caliber kid, whether it's somebody in the league. They invested in their that new school, they invested in that coach, and they got a really good transfer. We still gonna have to prepare. And so it ain't no days off. It ain't no days off. It ain't gonna be, a Tennessee, Ohio State, every night, but it's still going to be a tough matchup. And the environment that plays a big role when you have to go on the road with the band, with the pep squad, the fans, heckling fans. You got to have another mental toughness and just heart to be able to go on the road and play in those type of atmospheres as well. So that plays a part of the game where you got to have people with that mentality, like, it's whatever. Like we got to stick together as a team. We have each other's back. We're on this island by ourselves. And so, you got to be able to prepare for a game on the road in the MEAC and even at home. You got to still be hitting on all cylinders and, be able to defend home court and be able to especially shoot the ball, well at home, because these are our rims. These are the rims we practice on each and every day. And so, I'm looking ahead, best believe, and I'm letting my team know it ain't no nights off, non-conference or conference. We got to prepare.
My last question. You seem like you got an edge to you, like a grit about you. Mm-hmm. How much did the preseason conference rankings motivate the ladies?
Man, I kind of seen that happening. I honestly thought it would have been 7th because, we got hired so late. And you're looking at returners, you have one returner. And so we're literally piecing a whole entire roster together. And, even with preseason ranks, a lot of the people we have rung in, probably played minimal minutes at their previous school, probably didn't have a lot of stats. And so as a coach, you still kind of, put them up to be voted on. And it's just like, well, none of these coaches are going to vote on you. They don't know who you are. You don't really have a lot of stats. And so personally, you can use that as motivation that, all right, y'all going to know who I am, come the season. But, picking up 6 is kind of like, looking around the team and looking at what everybody accomplished thus far in their career, whether it's out of high school, whether it's, in college or even a transfer. And we went around the circle and said, just talk about all your accolades you accomplished, talk about all your accolades. And even as the coaches, what we've accomplished in our career, and then we putting all that together, we putting that recipe together. With all this experience in the circle, do we look or feel like a 6th place team? And they said no. And so, all right, now we have to prove it. We have to prove it. And so that's showing up every day, working extremely hard, on 110%, and competing. I'm always going to continue to say that compete word because that's big to me, and that's that edge. I've always had a chip on my shoulder. I've never backed down from a challenge. I was a big time defender when I played, and so I wanted to play against some of the best. I wanted that smoke, and so trying to instill that, in my players that 6th place, and you have some of them kind of like, okay, 6th place, okay, all right. I got something for them, and so some of them are starting to feel it. I'm not really getting too caught on the numbers because we got to show up and still play, and so we do what we're supposed to do. The rankings, the numbers, the postseason recognition will all take care of itself.
See, Ray's like, he's my kind of coach. He don't duck smoke. No. I like the non-ducking smoke. That's my type of my type of speed. I'm all about competing. I think that's the whole thing. Like that's the most important word. Like when you use that term, it registers to me. I'm like competition, competing is where it's at. Shouldn't be scared about who you playing up against or you're inferior to anybody. As long as you compete, you should be happy. You should be happy with that. I do want to ask this though, in terms of you mentioned the transfer portal, and Ray knows how I feel about it. But I want to know your thoughts on the transfer portal. Are you a fan or not a fan of it?
I'm a fan of it because my example is perfect. I get hired late April.
True, that's true.
With one player. Mm-hmm. Where else am I turning to find a team? Mm-hmm. It's hard to bring in 14 unsigned seniors coming out of high school that late in the year, and so. Mm-hmm. I'm immediately looking, transfer portal to see what's in the portal to try to get them here right away to play, JUCO, and then high school. And so, I was a transfer myself. When I transferred from Delaware State, I had Division I schools that wanted to bring me in, but at that time, you had to sit for a full year.
Yeah.
Now, if I had that when I was a player, I could have went back to Division I and played right away. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to sit for that full year. That's why I decided to go down to Division II, because I can come in, I can play right away. I was going to be team captain. I was going to be starting point guard. I just want to play, have fun, enjoy my collegiate experience. And that's kind of when my junior year of college, when it kind of hit for me that I wanted to get into being either a sports agent or a coach. And, it kind of sailed from there.
That's pretty dope. Hey, Coach, appreciate you being on. But before we end the show, I always ask this question for newer folks that have been on the show. What does coaching at HBCU mean to you?
Man, I'm HBCU through and through. I went to HBCU myself, Delaware State and Lincoln, and that's where I got my first, collegiate start. And I started out at Lincoln on the men's side, transitioned to the women's side as the head coach for 6 years. And so I don't know where I would be, without HBCU giving me my opportunity. Sometimes you search for these PWI jobs or these bigger jobs. I honestly learned so much, with having, low resource HBCU jobs. Sometimes it makes you have to think outside the box. It makes you have to be creative, but it makes you have to roll your sleeves up as well. And like I say, put your hard hat on. So during my time at Lincoln, I was mopping the floor. I was delivering lunches. I was driving the van. I was doing compliance. I was doing hotels. I was doing equipment. I was ordering. And so you learn so much, from the HBCU level. So when it's time to go and you get that call into that mid-major or PWI, you have done everything in your career thus far. And so, man, like I said, I don't know where I would be. And so that's why I'm excited to be back to my roots, to my people. But it's also been able to instill and inspire young people coming after me because of the opportunity presented, from HBCU.
What year were you at Delaware State? Just for the record.
I was going to ask the same thing. I was
06 to 08.
Oh,
okay. So you after us then?
Yeah, after us.
Okay.
Don't give me on status just yet.
Nah. You definitely there. You there?
Don't give me it just yet. I'm trying to get rid of a couple grades.
No, when he kept saying
I
ain't gonna lie. When he was saying he played with Delaware State, I'm like, was he around when we were down? Nah, he wasn't there.
I played with Greg Jackson.
We ain't lose at Delaware State while I was there, but yeah, maybe after I left, maybe.
Yeah, I came in an era where Delaware State was hot under Greg Jackson. We actually won the regular season 3 years in a row. They went to the NCAA tournament 3 years in a row. When I came as a freshman, we won the regular season and we lost in the tournament championship to FAMU by that tip-in buzzer beater. We were supposed to play Ohio State first round when they had Greg Oden and Mike Conley. And we lost by a tip-in buzzer beater, half-court lob in play, and they got a back screen wide open. I'm just like, oh, man. That was my opportunity to go to the NCAA tournament. So, Delaware State was hot around that time. Delaware State was hot.
South Carolina State was running the league when we were there. It wasn't no question.
Hampton was running it. Was it Hampton running
it? Hampton South Carolina State didn't have that. Hampton went to the tournament back to back. They beat Carolina. They upset Iowa State. Yeah, that was my bad. So South Carolina State went our freshman year, and I think sophomore, and then my last 2 years. Hampton
was like they was running it.
But Delaware State was a rival, so that was always fun, regardless if the team was good or not.
They were a rival.
Yeah, for sure. Hampton being hot at the time too. Yeah.
Hampton was hot. Yeah,
they had a nice setup at their home gym as well with the lights going off. I remember the and all that. So just that MEAC atmosphere.
Coliseum.
Yeah. It's definitely different. Well, Coach, thanks for being on. We appreciate you. Appreciate folks for tuning in. Anyway, you've been listening to the Urban Sports Scene. Ages. We out. Peace. Swag.